Hi there, my name is Corbin Hannis. I'm joined by my co-host Carl Bowden, and we have a fantastic guest today, Samantha Lucierini from Real Producers. It's great to have you on here, Samantha. We really appreciate your time. But first, Carl, do you mind explaining a little bit about the Discovering Leadership podcast real quick?
Yeah, definitely. So we're going to be talking about the foundations of leadership, how to build relationships, how to craft strategy, and how to live to our true, authentic selves. We're going to be building a community of leaders around this podcast. So this is specifically for you, our audience. Now, today we're going to be talking about authenticity and serving others, specifically how to find yourself, how to find who you truly are, how to live to your passions, your values, what gives you satisfaction, what gives you life in what you do. So Samantha, she's going to be joining us here today and she's going to tell her story.
Yep. So Samantha is the owner of Wichita Real Producers Magazine, as well as Be Local Wichita. She's done some really awesome stuff in the community. And whenever we were putting together the podcast, she was one of the first people that came to my mind to have her on here. She's a marketing beast. I tell you what, you got to check out her social media. She's
Thank
just
you.
awesome. So, yeah, do you want to tell us a little bit about how you got here?
Thank you, gentlemen, for having me. Well, I was born and raised in Wichita and really born into a real estate family. And so that's really been ingrained in my DNA with my grandparents and my parents. Graduated from Capon in 2000, went off to KU, and then eventually came back to Wichita to finish at WSU.
Awesome.
So the Shockers are my alma mater. And just kind of went, the college draws you away from Wichita, and Wichita draws you back at the right time. And so, just being able to be back here and kind of figure out what I wanted to do, what I didn't want to do, and it just kind of that entrepreneurial bug
That makes
just
sense.
grew and grew and grew in me. And so, about 3 years ago is when I started my journey in the whole magazine and marketing and advertising realm. I've always been in the realm of relationships and communication and connections and networking, but this kind of took it to the next level.
That makes sense. And, Samantha, like I said, you're fantastic just with your marketing ability and how great you've been able to put yourself out there and go about networking. So I thought you would be a fantastic addition to our podcast. But on
Thank
top
you.
of that, whenever we were looking into the topics, I was like, okay, where can we fit Samantha in? And we started looking at the topic today for finding yourself. I'm like, if anybody's a great example of that, it's you. Whenever you're marketing and getting out there and networking, to me, it seems like you are truly living yourself and you're truly being authentic. Whenever you're out and about, it's everything about you screams confidence, and I love it. So, yeah,
Yeah, Sam, I was listening to you, and it sounded like this started really since you've been growing up, being a part of your family. It's always been
Yeah.
a part of you. So I was just curious, like, were there like key moments in your life that you realized that this is the path that I want to take?
That's a tough question. I think that there was always a hunger, like a drive, something inside of me, that voice, like whatever I was doing, I wasn't fulfilled yet. I knew that I had a great potential. I knew that there was something that I could do that was going to make a big difference for the community that I was living in, but also like totally make my cup overflow. And I absolutely, I always say that everything that's happened to me in the past, the job experiences, the people I've met, the connections, the hard lessons, the tears, all of that have been stitched together into this just beautiful quilt, right? And it all equipped me with all the tools that I need to do a good job at what I'm doing now and to continue to, elevate and expand and transform. So I do think that it's been in the works for a long time. And I do feel that I am absolutely living my best life. Like I wouldn't change a thing. My dad would always say, everyone could throw their piles into a big problem in the middle of the world, and we wouldn't want anyone else's. Like we are perfectly equipped to do what we do, to deal with what we deal with, and to succeed. And once you find that true passion.
Yeah. So what would you say brings the most joy for you?
Just the connections, the people, just being able to go to, walk in almost any restaurant in town or any networking event, especially, or anything like that, and knowing that I'm always going to see some familiar faces. And I love that. I love how connected I am to the city. I love how connected the city is. And I'm a hugger and a handshaker. And, you always, it's really nice to know that we kind of belong as a city, like, as a whole. And I think that's what drives me the most. Like when I'm having a bad day or I don't want to go to another sales appointment or, drag myself, to the other side of town 4 times in one day. It's like, but I'll leave like with a friend, another connection, some knowledge of something that I wouldn't have known otherwise. And that, that makes me smile.
That makes sense. You're really doing it for the community, and helping out others is part of your passion. And I think you do a great job of exemplifying that and being an example of
Thank you.
that. So in that fashion, helping out the community, do you have any good recommendations for others, or say tips on how other people can find their true authentic self?
That's tough. I mean, it took me into my late 30s
Yeah,
before I figured
makes
that out.
sense.
That is not an easy thing to do.
Yeah,
I would say, it took a lot of self-reflection, a lot of, deep thinking, meditation, a lot of writing things down, journaling for me, talking to people that have, gone before me that have been really successful, other really awesome, entrepreneurial women in town or just, incredible business owners, just picking their brains. And then, the universe just kind of brings in, into your path who you need at the right time and in the right way. And once you start, figuring out those, asking yourself those questions, you figure out the end goal, you reverse engineer it, then I feel like the right people are going to come into your paths.
yeah,
So it's
Yeah.
just, it's hard. I don't know if there is a manual with a, number by number,
yeah.
then I mean, good for that, good for those people that are reading that, but it takes a lot of figuring out what you don't want. I think a lot of the jobs that you don't want, a lot of the, being around the people or the networking groups that don't do it for you, like kind of whittling that down.
That
Well, what
makes
is,
sense.
yeah, I mean, what it sounds like to me is that you really took a lot of the initiative to find yourself.
Oh, yes.
It didn't
Yeah.
just happen,
No, no.
but
No, there was a hunger. There was a hunger and it was time for a change. Like something needed to happen. You either go up or you either go down, in a positive direction or a negative direction. And so you've got to figure that out. But being a single mom in my mid 30s was like I've got to figure out what I want to do when I grow up.
Yeah, yeah.
And when you start digging and asking those questions, the answers will come. So you better be ready.
Oh, that makes
yeah,
sense. It sounds like you're figuring it out through experience. You're getting out there through trial and error, and that's, I mean, in my eyes, one of the only ways to do it.
Right. Well, you learn
It's
those lessons really well.
Oh yeah, you can plan as much as possible, but the plan's only great until you get started.
That's right.
You're gonna figure out, okay, here's what doesn't work with it through trial and error. You're gonna figure out here's what works great and adapt the plan. That's something we were talking about the other
Oh,
day, is
yeah.
making sure you adapt the plan going forwards, because nothing's ever perfect.
That's right. Oh, I was totally gonna say that. You cannot be married to this exact plan.
Yeah.
Like, if you are, you're going to be disappointed because things are gonna come, and usually they're for the better. If anything, even if there's something bad, we're gonna learn something from it.
Yeah.
But that, going back to answer more of your question, Carl, just not being afraid of starting, not being like, "Oh, I don't have everything perfect." So what?
yeah,
Yeah.
It's
just
never
do it.
gonna be perfect. Like, learn to fly while you're falling. You will. If your mind is set to do that, then you will. You'll figure it out.
Yeah, it's huge. You wrote things down, you asked yourself the questions, you connected yourself with the right type of people to get you where you want to go. And we have to be intentional in that.
Oh, yeah.
You know, but it sounds like you also looked at some of your strengths, some of your weaknesses.
Sure.
So I guess, how was that process and what did you discover about your strengths and your weaknesses?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's equally as important as, figuring out what your goal is, what the end goal, breaking that down, reverse engineering. But just as important, reading the right books or listening to Audible,
Yeah.
going to the right leadership events or, reading, just being around the right people, doing the right things. You will figure out what the strengths are. And then I also know not to spend too much time on my weaknesses. Like, be very honest about what our weaknesses are,
Yeah.
and then I always say, like, work a little bit harder to make a little bit more so that I can pay for other people to do the things that I'm not good at, for me. So that's like meal prepping, that's food, that's taking care of, you know, cleaning, things like that. Those are not the things that my time is best spent doing. And I don't like to do like the cooking. Like I've tried for 39 years. I don't like it. Like I've tried and tried
Oh
it.
yeah.
And so I'm going to quit fighting that because it just makes me miserable. It's stealing my joy. It's taking time out of the day that, it can be used better. So whether that's for, something personal or something business. But then, yeah, knowing what the strengths are too, and then refining those continually, I think.
That makes sense. And that always reminds me of a quote that I like to say is focus on the good and the good gets better. You know,
Yeah. And yeah. What you measure will grow.
exactly. And no, that makes a lot of sense. And as you're figuring those things out, it's like everybody knows about opportunity cost. So whenever you're figuring those things out and saying that maybe you were trying out cooking for so many years, are there any things that you sacrificed throughout that time? I'm sure everybody makes sacrifices, if I can speak. What were some of those sacrifices you made to get to the point you're in your life right now?
Yeah, so I've spoken about this before, like when in an interview or on another podcast. But when I was starting Real Producers, it's a franchise with a very low barrier to entry, so it's phenomenal, a phenomenal opportunity. But I also knew that during that entire ramp up period, I was going to be paid not a single penny, and so I had to be prepared financially and insulated. And they say, 3 to 5 months is the time of period that you need to have reserved for. And I thought that I did, and I didn't. And I had ran out of money and had to take out a personal line of credit at a ridiculously high interest rate. But I really had no other option. I was single mom at the end of a horrible relationship, moved back in with my mother, had drained my savings, took out this personal line of credit. Like I had no other option. I mean,
Yeah.
you have the option to quit, right? And that's not, I can't do that. But I think when you have no other option, you will sacrifice anything. Like, I mean, how much hard work I put in and like the 6 to 7 1 hour sales appointments, every day for 5 months straight. I mean, I did. I knocked out hundreds and hundreds of meetings during that ramp up period and in that first 1 to 2 years. And it did take a lot of sacrifice from, just only focusing on my son when he was with me and my family, and then only focusing on work during work hours. And that's hard to do when you're your own boss and there's no accountability. I mean, of course, there were numbers to report and my own goals that I was being held accountable to. But when you're your own boss and you run your own company, you can sit at home and watch Netflix all day long if you want to for months straight. But that's going to start to show up a few months down the road
Oh
if you
yeah.
do that too often.
Yeah,
Makes a lot of sense.
it takes a lot of discipline
That's
to
right.
do what you do. A lot of
Yeah,
self accountability.
it does.
You have to give it your all.
Yeah.
You know, you said that you didn't have really anything else to lean on.
Yeah.
You had to fully commit.
Right.
And when we do that, our back's up against the wall,
Yeah.
and we get to,
That's where we learned what we are. Yeah, what we're capable of. And it is neat to look back. It was horrible in the moment, as it usually is when people are at their darkest or their worst or, sacrificing the most. But man, you're like, wow, it does. It helps you love and trust yourself, when you can stay that disciplined and you can really knock something important out. It's a good building block.
That
yeah,
makes sense.
it's the tough times and really the suffering
Hmm.
where we learn the most.
Yeah, so we
But we
grow.
have to pay attention to that too, right?
That's right. Yeah, not get consumed by it or be depressed or be so hard on yourself that you are upset. It's like, you know what, this is a season and this will pass and I will look back and hopefully never have to experience that kind of a season again. But it does, it makes you, then you just got so much empathy for others, and so then when people are starting, you remember what you were going through. And I mean, hopefully I never forget that. So I can continue to, take my hand and reach for others and help them when they're starting out or when they're in the dark.
Yeah. I'm curious. You love relationships. Who are some of the main key relationships that you've, interacted with to find who you are, and how did they help you?
Yeah, I mean, I would say my mother, probably first and foremost. I'm really fortunate to have an incredible mother. We've had a very close, amazing relationship my entire life. And of course, my grandmother, who's still very healthy and very much alive. And she was born in 1929, so she's got a lot of different perspective. She has seen a lot in her 93 years. And just like her sense of calmness and just her pragmatic approach to things. And then my mom is just a tremendous character of just love and just such a, unconditional loving cheerleader. So I think those two women have those two relationships have been pretty pivotal. Those are the first people I'll call when something really great has happened or when
Yeah.
something really awful has happened. And then interestingly enough, my son, he's 16 now, so he's been with me. He's understood very well. I think I've been very transparent with him about numbers, finances,
Yeah.
hours, working, everything. So he's invested. He knows what it means when mom has sales appointments that day or when mom came home and made a sale or two, and how that translates into, a monthly income and how that translates to the bigger picture of the annual profit. And so, he's getting more interested, and I think he's going to be bit by the entrepreneurial bug as well. So he's asking a lot of questions. I hope that's the case, right? I hope
Yeah.
that's the case. Or he can serve our country. I'd be fine with that too. Um, but yeah, there's a lot.
Wow. I really like how you look to your mother and your grandmother and you picked out certain values with them. Maybe it's love, maybe it's kindness, but they exemplified those qualities in you. And then it sounds like you're starting to do that with your son
I hope so.
as well.
16-year-old boys, I'm sure you guys don't remember what you were like, but man, it is rough on a mama.
It wasn't that long ago for myself, so I can relate to him a little bit, and I hope she's hi mom. I hope you're surviving at least.
She's proud now, very
Yeah.
proud. Yes. Yes, I hope so. I hope that's the case. I mean, I am striving still every day. I mean, I feel like I'm currently living my very best life and I'm very happy with my life. I'm not obsessed with the perfection. There's still things I want to do, but that's the gift I want to give my son, Drake, as well. Like, I want him to, whatever he's doing, I want him to love it. I want it to be fulfilling to him. I want him to be happy
Oh yeah,
and successful. Yeah.
so that
Mhm.
he can live in your footsteps of living his true authentic self as well.
Yes.
I think that's
Yes.
fantastic.
Yeah. And then he can buy me cars and then I can get
Yeah.
into his car and with all these crumbs. Like, yeah, it'll be perfect. That's the idea.
That's awesome. So, what value do you really want to add to your world in what you do?
Um, I would say collaboration, more than anything. I want our community, when I'm having business meetings or interviewing realtors, I speak from that. I've trained myself to live in a mindset of abundance, and not scarcity, and not
Yeah.
in that greed, not in that competition. So really, just the abundance, the community, the collaboration. That's really what I'm doing. On paper, what my magazines do is they connect business owners with their target market.
Yeah.
But beyond that, there's so much more beyond that. I mean, I tell my business owners, your ad on this piece of paper is not magic. You could put this ad on a piece of paper and Splurge or Wichita Business Magazine or on the computer screen, or it's what I'm doing outside of that. It's the platform, the community, the having the real relationships with my clients to where we can just text each other and be like, hey, let's go grab coffee next week. Or we see each other out at, something outside of out business hours and we're hugging and high-fiving and cheersing. Like, I love that kind of collaboration. And just, hearing an ROI story from, say, a
Yeah.
business partner who's, participated with real producers. And in the first 2 years, he saw an ROI of $200,000, just from the doors that the real producers had opened for him with relationships with agents. And just that makes me happy. Like, that gives me happy tears and good goosebumps. And then I brag and I tell that story in every single sales meeting. And it's just like, on paper, what I was supposed to do is to create this ROI for businesses and be an extension of their brand. And when it really happens, it is so satisfying. And it's a good reminder. It's a good positive feedback loop. Like, that's what you're doing, Sam. Don't lose track of that foundation, and
Yeah.
keep working.
So within your business and within Wichita Real Producers, how would you say that values and of leadership have helped promote it through, say, teamwork and collaboration? Maybe not just with clients or uh, with the realtors in the area, but with others that have potentially helped you out as well.
Yeah, so I do have an incredible staff, and it's morphed and changed. And in fact, we just went through a pretty big transition, because that old adage is, like, what got you here is it going to get you there.
Yeah.
And so just knowing, in these first 3 years, what we've built and the staff that I've had with me, whether that be editors, content coordinators, photographers, writers, event planners, just all those people that make everything happen behind the scene, and actually make that beautiful 70-page magazine come together every month. So I mean, I couldn't do this alone. I've got social media people, one for Be Local. Her name is Kelly, and she does I mean, you could see like her work
Oh,
speaks for
yeah.
herself. It's amazing. And people are like, "You're everywhere, Sam. How do you have all the time?" And I'm like, "That's cute. I don't. I have amazing people on the team with me that are really good at what they do." And so just finding those right people is not easy. I know that's the hardest thing. Um, but I also have learned as a leader, like I want their love and their trust and their respect first. I mean, those are my most important things. Like I want someone that I don't have to I can delegate to. I don't have to micromanage. I'm not a good micromanager. This is enough to manage,
Yeah.
this and some dogs and a child. Like micromanaging anyone else sounds absolutely miserable. And God bless those in corporate that have to do that and
Yeah.
the ones that do it well. But yeah, I want to find the right people and put them in the seats and say, "This is your deadline. Do whatever the heck you want to do," knowing that you're representing, one of these products. You're representing Wichita, so do that well, and stick to the deadline and make sure you come and party once a month with us. Just keep everyone sane
Yeah, so you're really giving them the trust so
for
that
sure.
they can trust the organization, trust
Yes.
what they're doing.
Well, and they're gonna have ideas I don't. They're gonna help us grow in different little directions that I couldn't ever have come up with on my own.
Most definitely. No, that makes complete sense. Um, so through that and through your collaboration with, say, your teammates and all the people that are helping you out in producing everything, whether it's, say, on the social media side or through the magazine, what successes have you found, and what, say, failures have you found where you needed to actually readjust and come back to the drawing board?
Oh, so many, so many. I mean, COVID, of course, was great, a blessing in many ways. And a lot of us had to go back to the drawing board and pivot. I feel like that was the word of
Yeah.
2020. And so figuring out, oh crap, is my essentially new baby recession proof? Right?
Yeah.
Is this going to be okay? And so I only had real producers at that time, and we were supposed to have big quarterly events of like 300 to 400 people, and just a lot of face to face stuff. And so that got nixed. I was able to get our first party done in the end of February when basically COVID hit Wichita at the beginning of March. So we were really lucky to have gotten that underway. And then realizing, okay, are people still going to read this magazine? And it turns out when they weren't seeing each other personally, like in person, like actually reading the magazine and the social media became even more relevant. And so that was a blessing to figure out, oh, this is recession proof. Like I just need to keep working. I can do Zoom meetings. I can
Yeah.
there are ways to pivot. It also helped me figure out, what, this is a good time to spend a lot of time in the laptop and Excel spreadsheet land and actually bring every single Realtor member and every single commercial agent into the platform. Because if this is a
Okay.
real estate magazine, a real estate platform, it needs to include every single person that has anything to do with real estate. So doing that, and then that's also through COVID and the COVID, restrictions on gathering. Our monthly happy hours were birthed from that as well, and so we've continued with our monthly happy hours for real producers, which is a really nice another way for my business partners to actually build relationships with realtors face to face, not just dropping something off at a front desk or typing something on a social media comment.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think those are some of the biggest ones that have come to mind as far as how we've changed, how we've, what I thought was a failure, what I thought could have taken me down. I just had to go to the drawing board, and of course, rely upon the other 110 real producer publishers in the nation, and we all can kind of powwow and run ideas past each other.
Yeah, I think it's amazing how you got into COVID really, and you thought this was going to be
Scary.
really
It was
difficult,
very touch and
scary,
go.
and
Yes,
but the thing is, you found out that it was actually a blessing in disguise in a
it
way.
was. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
I mean, it's just how you look at it, how you choose to look at it. Someone could have chosen to look at that and been so headstrong about it, looking at it negatively. And it's pretty miserable. Life is hard enough to, instead of, you don't have to choose to look at something so negatively.
yeah, and what you do in COVID, especially, but coming out of COVID, you connect people, you build relationships, you build community.
They were even hungrier for it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we needed it, the most because as you've seen, we've seen so many people just disconnected
Oh, yeah.
with their communities
Yes.
and to be around positive people. So we need people like you doing what you do.
Yes.
So
There are a lot of incredible people in town doing some great things.
Oh, yeah. So having said that, everybody in the community really needs somebody like you. how can people get involved with you, Be Local or Wichita Real Producers? Is there anything that you want to promote potentially as we wrap up?
Yeah, so I mean, I would just say if there's any businesses that whose target market is the real estate industry, be it residential or commercial agents, then I'd love to visit with them. What I have going on might be a good fit. It might be an effective and efficient use of their marketing dollars, or it might not. If it's not, I know a lot of people. I know a lot of other marketing things here in town, so I'm always happy to give lots of recommendations and help people, even if they don't buy from me. And then for Be Local, the target market there are anyone that's moved into a home. So whether that means they're brand new movers to Wichita, or they're moving from one place to another. Um, in addition, if that's someone's target market, of course, I want to meet with that business again to see if what I have going on is a good fit for them and makes sense for them. It's either a no-brainer or it's not. But if there's other businesses that have events or nonprofits or things going on, the hat that I wear with Be Local is to be a cheerleader for all things Wichita. So if anyone has flipped through the magazine, they'll see there are 70 pages full of listings, all the businesses to visit, whether it's restaurants or coffee shops or retail or pet or whatever. So if somebody knows if there's a business owner here in town or someone that's just getting started and they would appreciate, a shout out on Be Local, like they just have to reach out. And Kelly or myself will be able to respond to them. And if it's something that Wichita needs to know about, then it's relevant content for social media. And we all know that that's important. So it's kind of scratching their back and it's scratching our back because we're getting relevant content. But yeah, however, yeah, I mean, I do. I just want to meet as many people as I can in town, as many businesses. Because if I can't help them, I bet I know someone that can.
That makes
Awesome.
sense.
Well, Sam, we want to thank you so much for being here.
Yes, thank
Really
you.
appreciate your
It's been
time.
fun.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, definitely. So, our next episode is actually going to be continuing this series on authenticity and serving others. We're going to be talking about passionately pursuing our purpose. You can follow us on social media. You can also listen to the podcast on Spotify, Google, Apple every other Tuesday.
Yeah. Check us out on social media. Go to enturion.com, enturian.com. Also check out exemplifyleadership.com. You'll be able to see all of our social media pages where we're posting everything you need to keep up with the podcast. Check out our YouTube channel if you want to see the video format. And we'll see you next time. We're really happy that you tuned in. Uh, just remember that alone we survive, but together we thrive. Have a good one.